life early last month. The island nation depended on the oil.
Venezuela provided the small island nation with nearly half of its oil, a small lifeline for an already crippled economy. With the arrest and U.S. indictment of former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and with pressure from the U.S., oil shipments to Cuba have now stopped. Today, Cuba warned international airlines that they will no longer be able to supply planes with jet fuel for at least a month. With rolling blackouts across Cuba, questions remain: how will Cuba survive without the aid of oil from Venezuela or other countries and stave off a humanitarian crisis? Here's ABC's Matt Rivers.
Havana, Cuba. The country's communist government has been plagued with problems over its 6 decades in power, many of its own making. Corruption, aging infrastructure, hurricanes, a struggling economy, international isolation, all pushing today's Cuba.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday ramped up the pressure on Cuba, warning the communist-run island in a Truth Social post.
Oh, I forgot to change the title. Yeah. Always forget to change the title. Yep. All right, here we go. All right, let's see what we got. All right.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday ramped up the pressure on Cuba, warning the communist-run island in a Truth Social post that the flow of Venezuelan oil and money would now stop, while urging the country to make a deal.
Pushing today's Cuba to the brink of a humanitarian crisis, and often leaving the island's streets blanketed in darkness. Blackouts, some lasting nearly all day, a common occurrence now. Using only the light of her phone, Idania Acosta pours water from a bucket into a small pot for her family's daily needs. The water, used to cook, bathe, and drink, will have to last Idania, her 2 children, and her ailing mother until the next shipment comes in 10 days.
Los niños están, por supuesto, sin comer, llegan de la escuela. Mamá, qué hambre, no sé cuánto, hay que esperar a que venga la corriente.
Unión Eléctrica recorded that 60 to 70% of the island went without electricity in December after a nationwide blackout left around 10 million Cubans without power for several days. Families like the Acostas work and eat by candlelight as the city softly hums with overworked generators. When the power grid doesn't work, only those lucky enough to have generators and enough gas to run them can keep the lights on. And the situation is only expected to get worse.
Es bastante complicado el tema del apagón. Cada día todo peor. Y si no hay una ayuda, aunque sea el petróleo, que es lo que más a nosotros nos favorece, es todo más para atrás y más difícil.
Cuba's already crippled economy is expected to get even weaker after U.S. forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife early last month. The island nation depended on the oil Venezuela sent over, which according to experts accounted for nearly 50% of their daily oil demand. In exchange, the Cuban government provided personal security and intelligence for the Venezuelan president. But President Trump cutting off that lifeline, writing on social media there would be, quote, no more oil or money going to Cuba.
Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they can hold out. But Cuba now has no income. They got all of their income from Venezuela.
Cuba faces tough questions here. I just don't see the country being able to survive without Venezuelan oil.
Jorge Piñón, a senior Energy Institute researcher at the University of Texas, tells ABC News Cuba's economic collapse is imminent.
We don't see a light at the end of this tunnel.
What does taking away Venezuelan oil mean for the country of Cuba?
A total collapse. When you are short diesel, now you're talking about transport. You're talking about diesel for the tractors and agricultures. Now this really impacts the economy of the country.
89% of Cuban households live in extreme poverty, according to the Cuban Observatory of Human Rights, with the average Cuban making just $16 per month. The Cuban economy has greatly suffered under a decades-long U.S. trade embargo that its government claims impeded its ability to do business on the world market. The regime brings in very little hard currency, so Cuba's international trade relies heavily on bartering, swapping its key exports like sugar, nickel, and medical services for essential imports such as oil, machinery, and food, with allies like Mexico, Venezuela, Russia, and China.
Where are their historical allies and exporters? I am very surprised that we haven't seen more Russian oil coming into Cuba. Brazil is now a major exporter of oil. So where is Lula coming to the aid of Cuba?
In January, President Trump declared a national emergency over what he called the, quote, unusual and extraordinary threat posed by Cuba, authorizing the U.S. to impose new tariffs on imports from countries that directly or indirectly supply oil to the island, meaning Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum's attempts to include oil in their humanitarian assistance will come to a halt. There have not been any known oil tankers heading there from Mexico since January 9th, according to Piñón. Dr. Maria de Los Angeles Torres, a professor of Latin American and Latino studies at the University of Illinois, calls the situation unprecedented.
It's almost like it is a society that is structured right now on matchsticks, and any one little thing that gets taken out or anything that gets turned on a flame can go in a minute.
This would not be the first time the United States has intervened in Cuba. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy approved the ultimately unsuccessful plan for the CIA to overthrow Cuban leader Fidel Castro, known as the Bay of Pigs invasion.
My sincere feeling to the people of the United States. I hope in the future we will understand better and we will be friends.
Nearly 65 years later, attempting regime change in Cuba would be a personal victory for a key member of the Trump administration, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, a Cuban American and self-proclaimed son of exiles. His parents immigrated to the U.S. in the 1950s, settling in Miami, the beating heart of the Cuban exile community and decidedly anti-communist. The fate of Cuba is deeply personal to Rubio, who rejects the idea that the U.S. embargo was the cause of the island's economic malaise.
We would love to see the regime there change. The suffering in the rural areas of Cuba are acute and they're deep. And it's not because of the embargo. It's because they don't know how to run an economy.
Do you see Rubio's hand guiding a lot of these actions.
We have a very unpredictable president. And while Rubio may have a very coherent perspective on Cuba, we don't know how that unfolds. I think that the regime in its current form, without any outside aid from anyone else, that would include China and Russia, does not survive the year.
The Trump administration not ruling out regime change in Cuba after the abduction of Maduro, demanding on social media that the Cubans cut a deal, quote, before it's too late. Meanwhile, Cubans wait with bated breath, the fate of their island held in the balance. But Cubans are not simply waiting for someone to, quote, save them. Despite the heavy hand of a security state that stifles dissent, sporadic protests continue to pop up against the government, none bigger than in July 2021, when tens of thousands took to the streets across the country demanding better living and economic conditions. Thousands more were detained, and rights groups say hundreds remain behind bars.
I think most people in Cuba, like most people everywhere in the world, are interested in being able to get up in the morning, know that they have a job, that they can work and make a living, be able to bring food home. Cubans, I don't think, are different than that.
Last week, the U.S. announced they will provide $6 million in humanitarian assistance comprised of food and hygiene kits. Overnight, Mexico sending humanitarian aid as well. But the UN warns the humanitarian crisis will become even more severe if oil needs go unmet. Like the other 11 million inhabitants on the island, Idania and her family are being pushed to the brink. But in a country where darkness is routine, life doesn't stop.
All right, so we just watched what's going on in Cuba. So the title is going to be Trump is playing checkers while the rest of the world is playing chess, right? So I wanted to touch over some stuff with Cuba because I want to show you guys exactly how this works.
Today's Cuba to the brink of a humanitarian crisis, and often leaving the island
nation with nearly half.
So, in order for us to have a peaceful life over here, of course, we have to be in control, right? Or at least have some type of control, right? Or at least to be able to control home and do the things we need to do. So Venezuela played a very imperative part, crucial part in this situation. But we're going to jump to a few things. But first, we want to touch on Cuba. So, all this month, I have literally been touching on all the different things, all the different outcomes and ramifications that can come from shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, or some people call it the Hormuz Strait, however it works for you. And we're going to go down the list real quick. I've been talking about this all month, why it's important. A lot of people have only been seeing surface layer. I'm going to give you my breakdown on how this thing is working out. So, as we know, Cuba is a socialist state, and a lot of, just to give you a short synopsis, we don't have to go too deep into it. A lot of them, of course, as most of us know, they were relying on a lot of their oil from Venezuela. A lot of the oil, a lot of the wealth was basically because of Venezuela, right? So now, when you want people to cooperate with you, I know the talented, the popular thing to say is, hey, let's just negotiate and sit down and talk. But the truth be told, that's not how humans work. There has to be an incentive. Okay? People do not move without an incentive. All right? You can have the best plan on planet Earth. You get the worst plan on planet Earth. It doesn't matter. If there's an incentive there, people will be more inclined to follow that edict, right? So, what happens is that we have a president that's playing chess here. Okay? Once again, popular belief, why do we have to do these things? Why can't we just go and talk to him? Okay? Well, here's the deal. Trump went in, got Venezuela, Okay. Now, of course, we're talking about the news. Everything was about fentanyl. Everything about the drugs, and I think those things were important as well. I'm not going to say I'm not going to nullify and negate those things, but I don't think they were main priority. Right. So main priority was that oil. Okay. Right now, America's producing more oil than ever than anybody else right now. All right. We are producing more oil than ever right now. United States of America producing more oil than ever right now. More than anybody. Okay? So, we go into Venezuela. We get that oil business. Now that has happened, Cuba, they're out of power. And I said this on my a couple of streams before. A lot of us don't realize what life looks like without oil. I said a lot of times, us in the United States are spoiled. We never had war on our soil before. Thanks to our amazing military, that we've never had war on our soil before. Thank you to our amazing military. Because here's the deal. Because we haven't had to go through those extremes, and don't get me wrong, we do go through extremes, but nowhere near in comparison to other countries go through. So, they're out of oil. They don't have no damn oil. They don't have no power. I mean, I just played the video for you trying to give you a small glimpse on what life looks like without oil, but even that can be a bit opaque, right? So, bear with me, or you can just, do the research yourself and look it up if you got the time. So, now, Venezuela has no choice but to do a deal with Trump because they got no power, man. And this is why I try to say, in a perfect world, people can sit down and have a conversation and come to terms, but that's not how humans work. There has to be an incentive there. Okay? And unfortunately, in this scenario, the incentive is they need power and electricity and they need oil. So, and that right there it should give you enough reason to oblige. And they will fold because you have to take care of the citizens. It's getting so bad right now that the citizens are starting to, get a little bit antsy with this, as they should. I mean, it's oil. Like I said, I don't think we realize how important oil is because we never had to live a week without it. When you're buying oil, you're literally paying for the next damn day. You understand? You're paying for the next day. I don't think that really sits well. Really, people understand that, but that's what you're doing. You're paying for the next day to run. So, Trump hits Venezuela. He gets this oil deal down packed. Now, Cuba is at his knees right now because all of Cuba's money and prosperity was coming from Venezuela. Well, Trump done already locked that down. And this is business. Like, what did you expect the man to do having his business background? What did you expect him to do? He's going to go in there, he's going to make deals, but you can't make deals without incentives. So now Cuba has to ask themselves a question. Are we going to let our citizens suffer? Which I don't think they mind anyway because they're socialists. We're going to jump onto that one too. That's even crazier. Or you're going to make the deal with Trump. Me personally, my opinion, I think sometimes you got to look at the bigger picture. He might as well just make the deal with Trump. Okay, sometimes arrogance and ego be the first of our downfall. No matter how big you are, there's always going to be somebody big and tougher than you, right? Don't sweat it. Let it roll off your back. Don't worry about it. Do some push-ups. Get back in the game. But Cuba has no other options right now. None. They ain't got no damn oil. You can't even if they wanted to fight, can't even fuel up your fucking jets. You can't do nothing. You're sitting ducks. That's not funny. But all jokes aside, they have to make this deal with Trump. Okay? That's number one. Trump goes into Venezuela. He does the oil deal. He gets all that oil. Right now, we're the number one producing oil people ever right now. So now Iran, they can't fight America gun for gun. They can't. So the smart thing to do will be attack the economy. So what do these guys do? Well, first of all, after Trump goes and gets the oil deal from Venezuela, two things are happening here. He's cutting off Cuba, and he's pissing Iran off. He pissed Iran off. He bombs Iran right after the Venezuela deal. He bombs Iran. Iran gets upset, and they shut down the Strait of Hormuz. This is the crazy part about it, ladies and gentlemen. We don't need the Strait of Hormuz open. We don't need it. We only get 4% of that oil that's allocated through the Strait of Hormuz. Well, actually, it's less than 4% because 4% is distributed to all the Americas. Right? So that leaves us less than 4%. 80% of that oil and those cross-border payments are allocated to Asia, China, Russia's already been cut off. Russia can't sell no damn oil because they already been sanctioned. But they did uplift the wartime sanctions for a month, but he didn't allow them to sell it to Cuba. And Cuba's not gonna get their oil or their power on until they make a deal. This is what businessmen do. What did you expect from a guy that's a businessman? What did you expect from him? So now we got a situation where Russia's down for the count. Russia has used up too many resources with Ukraine. Okay. And we played a hand in that too, because we was funding Ukraine a bunch of the weapons. So shout out to our military. We got a real powerful military, very smart and strategic. Cuba is on its way out of here. Iran, they done messed up. Iran done made several mistakes. All right. Mistake number one was shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. Not even calculating the fact that, hey, listen, these guys already got all their oil. So the only thing Iran is doing is hurting his allies. And they also hurting NATO a little bit too, but not really in the same way. And he's hurting China. Okay? So now China has to figure out where the hell their oil is coming from. Are they going to be sitting just like Cuba? You see how this works? You see, I just broke down what happened to Cuba when they don't have no oil, guys. I just broke that down. Cuba ain't got no power right now. Okay? China's headed for the same direction because all of the oil that goes through the Strait of Hormuz, 80% of that oil is allocated to Asia. So China's about to be looking like Cuba. So now what can we do in this situation? How can we get Trump off? How can they get Trump off of him? Because Trump is on their ass like green on grass. You understand what I'm saying? That's what Trump is. Trump is on their ass like green on grass in a very subtle way. What is China going to do? Now, me personally, I think it suffice that he leaves the Strait of Hormuz down. He leaves it shut down. Right? It'll bring everybody into order. Okay, because once resources get depleted, for some reason, reality tends to set back in. With any human being, no matter who you are, there's just reality tends to set back in when resources dry up. Okay? So China's headed towards that. So what can they do to get Trump off them? Nothing. Then Iran made another mistake today. They shot ballistic missiles and hit a base over in Europe. Now, this is where it gets tricky, everybody. Check this out. This is where it gets tricky. Iran are not the smartest people. I'm serious. They're really not. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I haven't been wrong before. I'm wrong several times. You know, that's why I research so much. You know, I make sure that I get everything correct. But Iran is not too smart by the looks of things. Okay, in this position right now that Iran is in, Iran, listen, you already got people gonna get upset with you. And now, at first it was like, cool, we're going to get America, we're going to shut down everybody. You know, America's been on everybody's ass like green on grass. So of course you want to see the bully get knocked out, or you want to see everybody want to see the champion fall. It happens. You know, anytime you got a champion up there, they want to see the champion falls. That's how it works out. So it was all cute in the beginning. How we shut down, they thought they shut down the oil supply for America. That's not true. America was getting their oil from Venezuela. Okay, that was mess up number one. Okay, now the last thing they do on top of all that is they go and bomb a U.S. base. Like as if though Trump didn't have his foot on your neck enough. You go and bomb a U.S. base. Two things happened. Fuck up number one was you bombed the U.S. base. Fuck up number two was that now you showed everybody that your missile can go 4,000 kilometers when they lied and said it was only going to 2,000. No problem. No worries for us. I just want to explain to everybody when Iran gets leveled, and they're going to get leveled, everybody need to know why they got leveled. This is important because everyone's saying, listen, you're picking on these people, and there's no reason why you should go into Iran. There's no threat. Well, if Iran lied about their ballistic missiles, no one thought that their missiles can hit. This release today, no one thought that their missiles can hit over what? 1,300, 200 kilometers. It went to 4,000, I believe. So the problem with this, if they're lying about their ballistic missiles, or if they're lying about their technology, then what makes you think that they're not closer to a nuke than what they told us? Because the information was incorrect. Mind you, people are saying, hey, they went over there and they didn't have no reason going over there. They got missiles that can reach Europe, ladies and gentlemen. Now, all of a sudden, NATO got a problem now. See, this is how this stuff works out. Trump said we're going to identify the threat. Everyone thought it was cute at first. Oh, yeah, America's having a hard time fighting. Boom, 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 boom. Now people are getting a little bit antsy because they need their oil. Then they go ahead and they send missiles to Europe. So this was always their fight. It shouldn't have had to come down to them hitting the U.S. base for them to say, oh, let's go ahead and open up the Strait of Hormuz. Now, you might say, hey, Fight Night, why does Trump want to open up the Strait of Hormuz? You just said it's in his favor for him to keep it shut down. Well, simple. When you're playing chess in business, you create a problem, and then you trick the people like you're solving a problem that you created. Vicious. Let's say that one more time. You create a problem, and then you pretend to help people fix the problem that you created. Tactical. And that's what happened. That's what's happening right here. Trump is helping the world fix a problem that he created. That's what's happening. He literally shut down the whole goddamn trading system on oil, and we think Iran did it. That's how strategical this was, and people don't even see it happening. People don't even know what happened. So, China, they're in the same wake and fire. They got to get their oil. They're going to have to cut a deal with Trump. If they don't cut a deal with Trump, they're going to end up like Cuba. Cuba, that's only a matter of days. You know, like I said, they need their power back on. Their citizens need resources that you have to have oil. You have to be able to do this. So this is what I mean by a very strategic situation. Okay, he's indirectly attacking China because China can't get their oil. Asia can't get their oil. 80% of it, mind you. He's already leveled Iran. And he also made Iran shoot themselves in the foot because now that Iran shut down the Strait of Hormuz trying to hurt America, but we already getting our oil from Venezuela. Russia, don't worry about him. He already put wartime sanctions on Russia because when they invaded Ukraine. He has the whole field locked down. Now the icing on the cake, the nail in the coffin, again, those ballistic missiles that came out of Iran and they went to Europe. Now NATO has no choice but to get up. I don't believe it should have took a missile to do that. They should have been over there anyway fighting their interests. Okay, they act like they don't get oil from over there. Okay? So, he has the whole thing. He has the whole thing in his hands right now. Okay? The question is, how are they going to work this out with China? What is China going to do? How's that deal going to work out? Okay, because eventually China's going to begin to show aggression towards Iran because, listen, I know you got a thing going on with the United States. I know y'all going back and forth in a pissing contest, but listen, we got to get the world running again. It was cute at first. Yeah, we got the United States. It was cute. But now it's not cute no more because people ain't got no damn power. We got power, though. The worst thing that we're going to experience is gas prices. That don't mean nothing anyway because Americans, we complain about gas prices every day. It doesn't matter. But there will be a strike in gas prices. That's going to be one small, minute thing that we're going to have to deal with. But they got whole other problems. We ain't going to have to worry about the lights going out. We're not going to have to worry about not getting the oil that we need to keep the country running. We're not going to have to worry about that. Those are not United States problems. But not to say United States won't have any problems because problems comes with the territory. But this is how Trump is playing chess. This is how Trump is playing chess. And to work in his favor, they done pissed off NATO. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump convinced NATO to shoot the damn ballistic missiles over there to blow up the goddamn U.S. To go blow up the goddamn just so NATO can come in there. I'm joking. I don't think he did that, but nonetheless, we know who knows, right? Who knows? Trump is a chess player. So these are just things we got to consider. I wanted to walk that down. I'm going to put this thing back on real fast, a couple of seconds, just to show you the state of Cuba, okay? Because mind you, Cuba was getting most of their resources from Venezuela. You know, and Cuba was protecting, the dictators and whatnot, and all that's done. All their money and their resources are coming out of there. And see, let me tell you something too. I don't mind. I think it's a good idea that they're making a deal with Trump, and I'm gonna tell you why. Okay? Cuba over in Cuba, you have a thing called First of all, you got a thing called government grocery stores, government schools, government everything. This is socialism. I've dropped videos this month about socialism. I've dropped my opinions on capitalism versus socialism, how I believe that capitalistic views are way more superior, way more functioning than socialistic views. And right now over in Cuba, you have damn... Okay, first of all, let's look at it this way. Anytime you got a place that deals with socialism, them people are enslaved. Let me tell you why. Because the whole principle core under socialism is everybody have equal things. The problem with having equal stuff is that everybody doesn't do equal work. So picture this world. Picture this world where you didn't work your ass off to go to college, become a doctor, spend 12 years in school, you became a doctor, and all this stuff happens, although this could never happen under socialism anyway. I'm just giving you an example. This can never happen because in socialist societies, you're not allowed to do better than the next person. Even if you got big dreams and you got amazing endeavors and you can be ambitious, whatever, it doesn't matter because the whole idea of socialism is that everybody has equal things. Problem with that is everybody don't do equal work. So you have taxi drivers that make the same amount of money as doctors. Is that fair? You mean to tell me if you was a doctor, you spent all them damn years in school, and there's a taxi driver that makes just as amount of money as you? That's socialism. That's socialism right there. So I'm in agreement that Cuba should make a deal with Trump because once we get over there, we're going to turn it into a capitalistic place, as it should be. Think about this. You got people over there that can't even be the greatest that they want to be because they have to keep themselves in a shell so everybody can have equal things. Over here is different. Over here, if you have an idea, you can capitalize on that idea. You can become as great as you want to be. Anything you want to do. You can be as poor as you want. You can be as rich as you want. It's your choice. Capitalism. Okay? Inventions. When we create things, these are individuals competing to give people a product. Okay? Give people a product. I mean, you have people competing to give you the best product. This is how we have TV today. This is how we have cell phones. You have people competing to give you the best product. That's capitalism. And in turn for these great ideas, you're also getting compensated for your money. Compensated for your ideas. That's the world that we should be living in. Socialist, it sounds good. People haven't done the research. I'm just saying, socialist is good for people that don't want to be nothing. But if you have big dreams, socialist, it's not where you want to be if you have big dreams and want to do big things. Because again, the idea, you can't even open up a grocery store because everything's government ran. You go to Cuba right now, the government runs their grocery stores. You can't even be an entrepreneur under socialists. You can't even be an entrepreneur. Imagine that. I want to open up a grocery store, I want to open up a car store. You can't do it. The government runs all that. And I find this quite strange because, I always hear people say, oh man, the government's doing this. Oh man, the government's doing that. Oh man, the government's lying. I hear all this every day until they get mad at something. And then all of a sudden, oh, the government's not that bad. Oh, the government's cool. The government's this. So this is the issue right here. Now we have over in New York, we have Mamdani, the mayor of New York. He's pushing this socialistic stuff. People already mad at him and it didn't even get started yet. You can't give people free stuff because guess what? The money has to come from somewhere. So now Cuba, they're under this illusion of everybody has equal free things, but now that the water has ran dry, where is the socialist now? So I'm totally against it. I think that we should free them citizens up and turn it into a capitalistic state because that's where dreams, endeavors, and wild imagination can run free. And if you have let me tell you something real quick. I did a story on this black woman named Marie Van Britton Brown. She was a black African-American woman that created the home security system. Okay? The name of this video was Black African Americans always had a capitalistic mind, even in the worst periods of our life. Okay? That woman had an idea. Her husband used to work late night. She didn't feel comfortable in her neighborhood. The police response was very slow. So the lady built the security systems you see today, people, is because Marie Van Britton Brown. It's a black African American woman that created the home security system. Okay, she had her thing hooked up to the monitor. She had the cameras in the peek hole. She could talk to the people audio without even coming to the door. There you go. That's capitalism right there. She would have never been able to fulfill that endeavor if we was under socialism. That's number one. Everything you see today, the inventions, the bridges, the companies that you have, capitalism, very important. So I'm in agreement that we need to go over there and fix that. Because people over there are suffering and we'll never be able to see the full creativity in people if they're bound under socialist mindsets or ideologies. So that's cool. Let me play this clip real quick just to give you a state of what Cuba's going through right now. They have no power. Let me show y'all how important oil is, and China's headed for the same damn direction if they don't give Trump what he wants. You got to give the man what he wants. or have a better deal.
Half of its oil, a small lifeline for an already crippled economy. With the arrest and U.S. indictment of former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and with pressure from the U.S., oil shipments to Cuba have now stopped. Today, Cuba warned international airlines that they will no longer be able to supply planes with jet fuel for at least a month. With rolling blackouts across Cuba, questions remain: how will Cuba survive without the aid of oil from Venezuela? Or
they won't survive. You got to make that deal with Trump, buddy. You won't survive. How can Cuba survive? You got to make that deal. And here's the funny thing about it: Trump don't even really have a specific deal in mind. He said he could do whatever he want with the place. But 9 times out of 10, knowing Trump, you're just going to pour money into the place. All right? Now, now look, Cuba, it suffices for Cuba to jump in line. But understand something, Cuba. You're getting the line with Trump and the United States. You ain't gonna be in charge. Understand? Everybody can't be in charge. That's a problem right now. We got too many goddamn chiefs and no fucking Indians. Okay? Everybody can't be the big boss on the playground. Okay? There's a thing called hierarchy. Okay? So now, Cuba, you're not going to be in charge, but you will have a prosperous economy. That's one thing I guarantee you Trump going to do for you. He damn sure going to pour some money in there. That's if you act right. Okay, so you close the deal. You fix your behavior. Okay, don't speak to this man unless you're spoken to. If he tells you you need this, then you say yes and you give it to him. Okay, and then your situation most likely will get a little bit better. You got any concerns with it? You wait till the next president to come along and you try to fix it, but you ain't gonna fix it with him. Call a spade a spade. It is what it is. We got to move forward.
for other countries and stave off a humanitarian crisis. Here's ABC's Matt Rivers.
Havana, Cuba. The country's communist government has been plagued with problems over its 6 decades in power, many of its own making. Corruption, aging infrastructure, hurricanes, a struggling economy, international isolation, all pushing today's Cuba to the brink of a humanitarian crisis, and often leaving the island's streets blanketed in darkness. Blackouts, some lasting nearly all day, a common occurrence now. Using only the light of her phone, Idania Acosta pours water from a bucket into a small pot for her family's daily needs. The water, used to cook, bathe, and drink, will have to last Idania, her 2 children, and her ailing mother.
See this, yo, you got people out here dealing with real problems. Seriously, that's crazy. You know, and like I said, we're gonna cut this a little bit short, but I think we covered everything. From down to what he went, his inception in Venezuela, to how it trickled down to Cuba, Russia, China, and now NATO's involved because on top of all the dumb stuff that they've done, they thought it would be a good idea to shoot a damn ballistic missile. We didn't even know Iran had missiles that can go that distance. So they lied about that. They was probably more close to a nuke than we actually thought they were. Okay, so we want to pray for our military. We want to make sure they got the strength to do what they do. We have to. If not, we're all going to be dead. Okay, we don't want that. We don't want to be dead. So we got to make sure our military is strong, healthy. Pray for them because they are risking their lives to keep us safe at home. And there's no reason why we should wish on their downfall. That's just not intelligent. So with that being said, I appreciate that. We're going to close this one out. I thought I was going to be about 20 minutes, but actually that was pretty good though. All right, and that'll be all. Thank you so much.